I'd been driving for hours that night, the road stretching endlessly between patches of fog and pine. The heater in my old sedan barely worked, and my hands were stiff against the steering wheel. Around midnight, I spotted a figure on the shoulder up ahead, walking with a small duffel bag and his thumb pointed out toward the darkness. Normally, I wouldn't stop, but the highway was empty, and there was something about the chill that made me think I'd want the same kindness if I were stranded. He climbed in slowly, smiling and thanking me. He was polite at first, soft-spoken, maybe mid-30s, dressed like someone who'd been outside too long. He said his name was Drew, said he was heading to Harrington, my hometown, and smiled when I told him that's where I was going too. Except when he started talking about it, something felt off. He asked if the movie theater downtown ever reopened after the fire. I told him it had been an empty lot since I was a kid. He laughed awkwardly and mentioned grabbing milkshakes at the diner next to the old bus station. That diner had been torn down over 10 years ago. I remember my fingers tightening on the wheel as he went on, naming streets and buildings that just didn't exist anymore, describing them as if they were still standing, bright, alive, busy with people. He even asked if the Sunday market still set up behind the library, like it used to, every weekend. But there'd never been a market there. Not in my lifetime, at least. I turned the radio on low, hoping to shift conversation, but the signal crackled with static. Drew just kept looking out the window, muttering something to himself about how different everything looked. The temperature dropped suddenly, even though the heater dial was maxed. His breath fogged the glass while mine barely did. 5 minutes later, I looked away for a second, just long enough to adjust the radio, and when my eyes returned to the road, he was gone. No door sound, no movement. The passenger seat was empty, except for a faint patch of frost shaped like a handprint on the window. When I finally reached Harrington, I took the long route through downtown. The fog had lifted, but for a split second, as I passed the vacant lot where the movie theater once stood, I saw lights flickering behind what looked like glass doors, and someone standing just inside, watching the road. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I'd been standing on that stretch of highway for almost an hour, feeling the cold sink through my jeans. My ride home had fallen through, every bus was full, and my phone was down to 5%. When an old gray sedan finally slowed and pulled over, I didn't hesitate. The driver rolled down the window just enough to speak. He was middle-aged, with sunken eyes and a voice that sounded dry, like he hadn't talked much lately. "Where are you headed?" he asked. "Crescent Falls," I said. It was 2 hours north. He nodded, said that was on his way, and unlocked the door. Inside, the car smelled faintly of bleach. Clean, in a way that wasn't comforting. The seatbelt buckle was sticky, and I didn't want to think about why. The dashboard lights flickered when he started moving again. For a while, it was quiet, except for the hum of the tires. He didn't seem dangerous, just a little quiet. When he did talk, it was about roads he used to take before they put in new exits, and how the town had changed since he last went through. His hands were big, resting heavy on the steering wheel. Every time a truck passed, he tensed up like he'd been caught doing something wrong. After about 20 minutes, I noticed something odd in the reflection of the window. The glow from the dashboard lit just enough of the back seat to make out a bulky tarp stretched across it. I realized I could see something shifting slowly beneath it. I kept my eyes forward, pretending I hadn't seen. My hand hovered near the door handle, but we were doing 60. I told myself maybe it was tools sliding around or something loose under there. But the shape looked human. I glanced at the rearview mirror. He was watching me, just enough that our eyes met. He smiled, a small twitch at the corners of his mouth before turning back to the road. The smell of bleach grew stronger the longer I sat there. I made up a lie about needing a bathroom and begged him to pull off at the next rest stop. He didn't answer at first. Then, after what felt like forever, he nodded and said quietly, "Yeah, I could use a break too." When he parked, I opened the door before the car fully stopped and walked fast toward the restroom lights. I didn't look back, but I heard the trunk open, then something being dragged. Soft scrape against asphalt. Inside the bathroom stall, I locked the door and stood on the toilet, trying not to breathe. My phone had 1% left, but no signal. I stayed there until the sound of that engine faded into nothing. I never saw him again, but on the drive home with my dad the next morning, we passed the same rest stop. Police cars everywhere, tape stretched across the entrance. They said someone had found an abandoned sedan in the parking lot. The trunk was open. The tarp was gone. I'd been walking for an hour when I realized I hadn't seen another person since the gas station. The road was a 2-lane stretch of cracked asphalt cutting through empty farmland, lined with fence posts that leaned like they'd given up long ago. I was headed east, thumb out, trying to make it to my brother's place before midnight. I remember watching the horizon blur through dust and heat shimmer when the first car came into view. A gray sedan, windows tinted dark. It passed without slowing, the driver's face pale against the glass, hands fixed at 10 and 2. People don't pick up hitchhikers anymore. Then, 10 minutes later, another car appeared in the distance. I recognized it immediately. Same make, same color. Same dull license plate light hanging by one screw. It passed me with the same smooth hum of tires, same figure behind the wheel. Eyes straight ahead, unblinking. By the time the third one came, something inside me tightened. It was identical down to the smallest detail. The scratch on the rear bumper, the tiny crack in the taillight. The driver's head didn't move. He could have been an image printed behind the glass. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself it was some weird coincidence. Maybe there was a rental agency nearby. But each car went by, spaced exactly the same. 5, maybe 6 minutes apart. The sun sank a little lower each time. I stopped walking and waited for the next one. It came exactly on cue. I stepped closer to the road, just to catch a better look at the driver, and I froze. He was me. Same jacket, same day-old stubble, same expression, eyes hollow and fixed ahead. My own face staring past me like I wasn't there. The car passed so close, the air pushed against me, knocking a chill through my chest. I turned around to watch it shrink toward the horizon, heart hammering like it was trying to get out. Ahead of me, another gray sedan appeared, headlights cutting through the dim orange light. I left the road and climbed the fence line, walking across the hard soil, trying to get away from the asphalt. But the hum kept following. Same rhythm, same passing roar. When darkness settled, I turned back once more. The road glowed faintly in the distance, lined with headlights sliding endlessly by. All gray sedans, all with my face behind the wheel.